The Rat and the Elephant, an Aesop's Fable, presented by Storytime Classics, illustrated by www.bluestarcreations.art. Be sure and visit Blue Star Creations to inquire about what they can do for you as far as commissioning art, purchasing stickers, and more things. A rat was traveling along the king's highway. He was a very proud rat, considering his small size and the bad reputation all rats have. As Mr. Rat walked along, he kept mostly to the ditch. He noticed a great commotion up the road, and soon a grand procession came in view. It was the king and his retinue. The king rode on a huge elephant, adorned with the most gorgeous trappings. With the king in his luxurious howdah, there were the royal dog and cat. A great crowd of people followed the procession. They were so taken up with admiration of the elephant that the rat was not noticed. His pride was hurt. "What fools!" he cried. "Look at me, and you will soon forget that clumsy elephant. Is it his great size that makes your eyes pop out? Or is it his wrinkled hide? Why, I have eyes and ears and as many legs as he. I am just as of much importance and—" But just then the royal cat spied him, and the next instant the rat knew he was not quite so important as the elephant. A resemblance to the great in some things does not make us great. The Wolf and his Shadow. A wolf left his lair one evening in fine spirits and an excellent appetite. As he ran, the setting sun cast his shadow far out on the ground, and it looked as if the wolf were 100 times bigger than he really was. "Why," exclaimed the wolf proudly, "see how big I am, fancying me running away from a puny lion. I'll show him who is fit to be king, he or I." Just then, an immense shadow blotted him out entirely, and the next instant, a lion struck him down with a single blow. Do not let your fancy make you forget realities. The Frogs Who Wished for a King. The frogs were tired of governing themselves. They had so much freedom that it had spoiled them, and they did nothing but sit around croaking in a bored manner and wishing for a government that could entertain them with the pomp and display of royalty, and rule them in a way to make them know that they were being ruled. No milk and water government for them, they declared. So they sent a petition to Jupiter asking for a king. Jupiter saw what simple and foolish creatures they were. But to keep them quiet and to make them think they had a king, he threw down a huge log which fell into the water with a great splash. The frogs hid themselves among the reeds and grasses, thinking the new king to be some fearful giant. But they soon discovered how tame and peaceable King Log was. In a short time, the younger frogs were using him for a diving platform, while the older frogs made him a meeting place where they complained loudly to Jupiter about the government. To teach the frogs a lesson, the ruler of the gods now sent a crane to the king of Frogland. The crane proved to be a very different sort of king from old King Log. He gobbled up the poor frogs right and left, and they soon saw what fools they had been. In mournful croaks, they begged Jupiter to take away the cruel tyrant before they should all be destroyed. "How now?" cried Jupiter. "Are you not yet content? You have what you asked for, and so you have only yourselves to blame for your misfortunes. Be sure you can better your condition before you seek to change. The Lion and the Donkey. One day, as the lion walked proudly down a forest aisle, and the animals respectfully made way for him, a donkey brayed a scornful remark as he passed. The lion felt a flash of anger, but when he turned his head and saw who had spoken, he walked quietly on. He would not honor the fool with even so much as a stroke of his claws. Do not resent the remarks of a fool. Ignore them. The Traveler and the Purse. Two men were traveling in company along the road when one of them picked up a well-filled purse. "How lucky I am," he said. "I have found a purse. Judging by its weight, it must be full of gold." "Do not say I have found a purse," said his companion. "Say rather, we have found a purse, and how lucky we are. Travelers ought to share alike the fortunes or misfortunes on the road." "No, no," replied the other angrily. "I found it. I am going to keep it." Just then they heard a shout of "Stop, thief!" and looking around saw a mob of people armed with clubs coming down the road. The man who had found the purse fell into panic. "We are lost if they find the purse on us," he cried. "No, no," replied the other. "You would not say we before, so now stick to your I. Say I am lost." We cannot expect anyone to share our misfortunes unless we are willing to share our good fortune also. The Sheep and the Pig. One day a shepherd discovered a fat pig in the meadow where his sheep were pastured. He very quickly captured the porker, which squealed at the top of its voice the moment the shepherd laid his hands on it. You would have thought to hear the loud squealing that the pig was being cruelly hurt. But in spite of its squeals and struggle to escape, the shepherd tucked his prize under his arm and started off to the butcher's in the marketplace. The sheep in the pasture were much astonished and amused at the pig's behavior, and followed the shepherd in his charge to the pasture's gate. "What makes you squeal like that?" asked one of the sheep. "The shepherd often catches and carries one of us off, but we should feel very much ashamed to make such a terrible fuss about it like you do." "Well, that's all very well," replied the pig, with a squeal and a frantic kick. "When he catches you, he is only after your wool, but he wants my bacon. Gree!" It is easy to be brave when there is no danger. The Farmer and the Stork. A stork with a very simple and trusting nature had been asked by a gay party of cranes to visit a field that had been newly planted, but the party ended dismally with all the birds entangled in the mesh of the farmer's net. The stork begged the farmer to spare him. "Please let me go," he pleaded. "I belong to the stork family, who you know are honest birds of good character. Besides, I did not know the cranes were going to steal." "You may be a good bird," answered the farmer, "but I caught you with the thieving cranes, and you will have to share the same punishment with them. You are judged by the company that you keep." The Shepherd Boy and the Wolf. A shepherd boy tended his master's sheep near a dark forest not far from the village. Soon he found life in the pasture very dull. All he could do to amuse himself was to talk to his dog or play on his shepherd's pipe. One day, as he sat watching the sheep and the quiet forest and thinking what he would do should he see a wolf, he thought of a plan to amuse himself. His master had told him to call for help should a wolf attack the flock, and the villagers would drive it away. So now, Though he had not seen anything that even looked like a wolf, he ran toward the village, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf!" As he expected, the villagers who heard the cry dropped their work and ran in great excitement to the pasture. But when they got there, they found the boy doubled up with laughter at the trick he had played on them. A few days later, the shepherd boy again shouted, "Wolf! Wolf!" Again the villagers ran to help him, only to be laughed at again. Then one evening, as the sun was setting behind the forest, and the shadows were creeping out over the pasture, a wolf really did spring from the underbrush and fall upon the sheep. In terror, the boy ran toward the village, shouting, "Wolf! Wolf!" But though the villagers heard the cry, they did not run to help him as they had before. "He cannot fool us again," they said. The wolf killed a great many of the boy's sheep and then slipped away into the forest. Liars are not believed even when they speak the truth. We hope that you've enjoyed this selection from Aesop's Fables, presented by Storytime Classics. We hope you enjoy the artwork from www.bluestarcreations.art. If you like her artwork, please go and check out her website and commission her to do your own custom art piece, and look at the merchandise she has there as well. Also, if you like what we do and want to help us out, be sure and subscribe to the channel, press the notification button, and share this with your friends. We're so thankful that you tuned in, and we hope to hear from you again next week. Thank you for listening to Storytime Classics.